Okay, welcome back to the 90% tutorial for Sands of Time. Last time we left off here in the Farah tower, where you got the checkpoint, killed the prince to load the next area, and now we are here. Small note that the next zip is a bit harder, so the fact that there's a checkpoint here is quite convenient, because if you fail, you can simply try again. And another note, you need to have 1 sand here. If you don't have any sands, this run is over and you cannot continue, because Farah is not in this tower, so you can't actually complete the tower casually. Okay, speaking of the next zip, for the setup you do a small wall run on the left side of that window to position yourself. Your first person aim like this. You see at the left side there's just a tiny bit of dark wall you can see next to that stone frame thing. And that setup is quite precise, so take your time to get this first person aim. You then fully zoom in and the actions are as follows. 3 daggers, jump sword, dagger, small pause, reset camera and jump, followed by steps. Now the jump is fast rewinded. As soon as the jump is done you change to slow rewind. And when the jump sword is on its highest point, you change to fast rewind again. Should then look like this. If you got the zip, you maybe have to reset camera right after so you can actually see the prince. So this zip is obviously not the easiest with 2 rewind speed changes in it. So let's do a bit of troubleshooting. So in the dagger after the jump, the floor should deload. That means you hit the first loading trigger. If you missed that loading trigger, there are 3 options. One is you understepped, so you didn't zip or at least didn't fully zip the jump, so you're too low. You kind of go below the loading trigger. Option 2 is that the pause between the dagger and the jump at the end was not long enough. So when you change to fast rewind after the jump, a bit of the dagger is fast rewinded and you go too short. You don't get enough distance. And the third option, and that's the most likely one, so you simply misaimed the zip. So you looked either too far left or too far right in the first person cam setup. Okay, now let's assume you hit the first loading trigger but didn't hit the second one. You know you hit the second one if at the end of the zip even the wall deloads. So if you missed that loading trigger, that means there are also a few possibilities. The most likely one is that the second rewind speed change happened at the wrong time. So it was either too early or too late, which means you're not low enough, so you're kind of above the second loading trigger and therefore didn't hit it. However, if you missed the second loading trigger but still landed on the platform, there's a good chance that you went just slightly too short. In that case, you hit the loading trigger right after the zip by walking through it. And you know that happened when you get this little cutscene up here. If that happens and if you get the cutscene here, you're good to continue because the next area is loaded. If you miss the second loading trigger and this cutscene is not here, the next area won't be loaded. So make sure to kill the prince and try again. And the last problem you might have, you hit both loading triggers, but you die because you missed the platform. That one is very simple. You just misaim. So check the first person cam setup again and try to replicate it. Okay, now if we did the zip correctly, we should then right here and we then do a bit of casual platforming. Just a quick case distinction. If you have 0 sands here, that means you have to take the following sand cloud. If you have 1 sand, you can skip this cloud. This jump right here is a small shortcut. It skips using the pole to the right of the prince. If you have trouble with that one, I would recommend taking the sand cloud so you can retry in case you fail. So because of the zip in the Farah tower, we skipped a cutscene where the prince rips his sleeve off. So we don't have the updated texture of the prince. And at this very point of the ledge, the game checks for that. And the old texture, which we're not supposed to have anymore, is deloaded so the prince goes kind of invisible. Knowing that is not important for the run, it's just a side fact to understand what happens here. Okay, this door frame we want to do a small cutscene skip, which is simply done by wall jumping off the door frame. You position yourself and line yourself up like I did, take out your sword, hold forward and mash the jump button to jump over the cutscene. If you fail that, that's not a problem. The cutscene takes around 10 seconds but does not end the run in any way. So after swinging across the poles and getting down here, we can either torpedo off to get to the ground floor. That's the quick method. If you have trouble with that one, you can do a slightly slower method, which is done by hanging off the middle of the fence, jumping off and then falling down. This jump is not too precise, so despite being the invisible prince, you shouldn't have any problems doing this one. So next up is the zip into the caves area. For the setup, you stand under this torch and do a wall run flip, then go into first person and position the cam like this. To the right side of the door frame there should be a bit of wall to see, but not so much that this line appears. So anything between the right side of the door frame and this line should be fine. The inputs are quite simple. It's dagger jump sword, pause, reset camera, and a dagger. The dagger is slow rewinded. In the dagger you should hit a loading trigger, and right after that you change to fast rewind and rewind until the camera stops moving. If you missed the loading trigger in the slow dagger part of that zip, and you know that happened when there's no water at the waterfall you're supposed to land on. That means you misaimed, and unless you have sand to get back into the courtyard, you have to kill the prince and start back from the last checkpoint. You then should land on this waterfall, and you can simply roll down and take the next sand cloud, which you have to take. At this point you should have 5 sand tanks for sure. Okay, now that you got the sand cloud, it's time for the first half of the caves. There are 2 methods to do that. First of all, there's a zip for that, and then there's the glitchless route, which is around as fast as the zip if done optimally. So from these 2 you are free to choose. First of all, the zip. You do a small wall run to position yourself right under these 2 dark lines here. You zoom in and you do parry, jump sword 3 times. The first 2 parry jump swords are slow rewinded. And on top of the 3rd jump sword, you switch to fast rewind. And you then should land down here. If you die from fall damage, that again means you switched the rewind at the wrong time. Okay, after landing here, you can simply proceed normally. Now for the second route here, which is the glitchless caves, also sometimes called zipless caves for some reason. For that you drop down on the right side here twice. You do a diagonal jump to that wooden log in the middle. Jump forward twice. You again jump to the next platform. That one is a bit precise. Even more since you're the invisible prince. Right after you go around the corner, you go down the ledge and jump off. You do a few steps forward and then you jump to the right. If you jump off at the right time, the prince should directly grab that ledge. If you jump off again, you're at the last wooden log. If you're doing this part of the caves glitchless, be aware that wasting 2 sands or more to fix your mistakes means you can't continue because you don't have enough sand to do the following zips. So you're allowed to do 1 mistake and use 1 sand, but that's it. Which means if you want to do the glitchless caves route, you should really practice it a lot to not fail the movement and be consistent at it. Otherwise you can simply do the zip downwards. Either way, we should now be past the first half of the caves. We simply zip through this wall with a fast parry. Be aware that the ground is not flat, so if you zip at a wrong angle, as showed here, you might end up floating in the floor, which you really don't want. So pay attention to zip towards the middle of that wall, which is the lowest point of the ground. Okay, and after doing some platforming to the next breakable wall, there's only 1 zip left before we get to the next checkpoint, which is actually a save point. For that one, you do a min wall run jump off the left side of the door frame. First person setup goes like this. You line up the left side of the first person screen with that corner of the wooden frame. The inputs then are double dagger, short pause, reset camera, 2 parries and steps. The 2 parries are fast rewinded, and right after the 2 parries are done, you switch to slow rewind and end the rewind after both of the daggers are done. If you didn't reach the platform with the save point in the zip, so you didn't get enough distance, that means that a part of the dagger was fast rewinded. So either the pause wasn't long enough or you switched rewind speeds too late. You then should land next to or optimally inside the save point. After taking this save, you either kill the prince to load the next area, or alternatively, to save a few seconds, you can crash the game, reopen it and load this very save. Whew, that was a lot to cover in this episode. And next time, we'll continue right here after the 57% save in the caves.